my mental illness, I chose to do dissociative identity disorder. Dissociative identity disorder is commonly known as multiple personality disorder. Dissociative identity disorder is a mental health condition. People with DID have two or more separate personalities. These identities control a person's behavior at different times. DID can cause gaps in memory and other problems. Various types of psychotherapy can help manage symptoms of DID. Common signs and symptoms are anxiety, delusions, depression, disorientation, drug or alcohol abuse, memory loss, and suicidal thoughts or self-harm. I didn't include this into the PowerPoint, but there isn't a single test that can diagnose DID. A healthcare provider will review your symptoms and your personal health history. They may perform tests to rule out any other underlying physical causes for your symptoms, such as injuries or brain tumors. There's no way to prevent DID, but identifying the signs as early in life as possible and seeking treatment can help you manage symptoms. Now we're going to do causes. This disorder is usually the result of sexual or physical abuse during childhood. It may be developed in response to a natural disaster or other traumatic events like combat. This disorder is a way for someone to detach themselves from their trauma. Neuroimaging studies have identified areas of the brain, the orbitofrontal cortex in particular, that function differently in DID patients, thus providing a neurobiological basis for the disorder. By examining the effects of trauma on neurological development, some of the differences between the normal and the DID brain can be accounted for. So I didn't want to just know that with the regular causes, where I wanted to know what was deeper inside the brain that could cause a disorder such as DID. I looked over the chapter and found that the best reflecting for dissociative identity disorder would be Chapter 9, which includes sleep, wakefulness, and conscious awareness. So looking back on Chapter 9, they discuss learning, memory, and survival functions. Memory loss is a major symptom of dissociative identity disorder. When someone is switching to different personalities, which they call alters, they tend to black out afterwards and forget what just happened. Since memory loss ties into learning and survival functions, this can put people with DID at risk. Just like if they were to change into a new alter and they went somewhere like the street or something, they ended up in a place they aren't supposed to be and they don't remember how they got there, or they ended up getting into trouble and couldn't explain to someone why they did what they did, if that makes sense. So this is my resources. Just going back, I wanted to include there are ways to make living with DID easier. A strong support system can make living with DID more manageable. Um, Making sure you have healthcare providers, family members, and friends who know about and understand your condition. Just to communicate openly and honestly with the people in your support system and don't be afraid to ask. I always think that group therapy is a good way to cope with the disorders because you have other people to talk to. You're not just feeling alone. Because I think it's important people don't feel isolated. Um, I wanted to also reflect on a movie that I watched. It's called Split. I know it's kind of like a funny horror film they made it into, but I also think that it can really show you more about this dissociative identity disorder because it does give a good reflection of this man changing alters. For people who haven't seen the movie, he has dissociative identity disorder, and he ends up kidnapping girls, and they're really confused because he keeps turning into different people, but he's still him. He's still the same person. He's just changing his clothes, his attitude. Everything's different. Okay. So I want to go back to the symptoms. The symptoms of dissociative disorders depend on the type of disorder that has been diagnosed. There are 3 types of dissociative disorders defined. Starting 1, dissociative amnesia, depersonalization disorder, and we have dissociative identity disorder. So there is a difference. It can be confused with the other disorders out there, such as dissociative amnesia is the main symptom. It's difficulty remembering important information about oneself. Dissociative amnesia may surround a particular event such as combat or abuse, or rarely information about an identity and life history. The onset for amnesic episode is usually sudden, and an episode can last minutes, hours, days, or rarely months or years. There is no average for age on site or percentage, and a person may experience multiple episodes throughout their life. The depersonalization disorder, this disorder involves ongoing feelings of detachment from actions, feelings, thoughts, and sensations, as if they were watching a movie. Depersonalization, I feel like I can definitely relate to this in some level, not obviously fully, but I tend to lose myself into movies sometimes because I'm a very big movie fan, and just sometimes my thoughts can relate to a movie. The things that I say, the things that I think are funny will come off definitely from something I got from a movie. Um, the way I get worried, my facial expressions are all from what I've seen from movies. It's a very weird feeling and very hard to explain to someone that doesn't understand. But moving on, a person may experience depersonalization, derealization, or both. Symptoms can last just a matter of moments or return at sometimes or over the years. So, dissociative identity disorder is characterized by alternating between multiple identities. A person may feel like one or more voices are trying to control in their head. Often these identities have unique names, characteristics, mannerisms, and voices. People with DID will experience gaps in memories of everyday events, personal information, and trauma. Women are more likely to be diagnosed as they more frequently present with acute dissociative symptoms. Men are likely to deny symptoms and trauma histories and commonly exhibit more violent behavior rather than amnesia or vague states. So there is definitely a difference in the three of them, but they kind of all relate back to dissociative identity disorder. So that is all research that I